Hello, welcome. This is the Voices of the Internet of Things with Chuck Martin, and we are broadcasting live from ARM TechCon in San Jose. With me today is John Ronco, Vice President and General Manager, Embedded and Auto at ARM. So welcome here, John.
Thank you, Chuck. Good to be here.
So tell me what embedded and auto is. Is that the same thing or different?
It's different. So it covers, my group in ARM covers a real wide range of different end applications. So automotive, obviously, in terms of cars and all the different electronics that goes into cars, but also a whole range of other embedded devices, so medical devices, robots, drones, microcontrollers, so down things like you might say a Raspberry Pi or an Arduino board, all of that falls under the category of embedded.
So isn't auto just part of that?
It is, but it's a very specific vertical which has its unique needs. So automotive, yeah, you're right. In a way, automotive is representative of the broader market in that within a car, you find every different type of electronic device from very small to very powerful. So yeah, we treat it as a special category because it has certain requirements that need to be met, and actually it's driving a lot of innovation. So a lot of the innovation in this space now is being driven by automotive, which is seeing a massive increase in electronic content in cars.
So you go way back in auto, back in 92, 98. You were
You've researched my background, yes.
Well, yeah.
I started my career at Ford.
At Ford, yeah.
So I started as a grad at Ford, and then I actually worked on the first electronic instrument cluster that Ford did in Europe, which was on the Ford Focus in '97, which at the time was revolutionary. So at the time previously it was all mechanical odometers, speedo cables and everything else. And so introducing electronics was a big step change for the car industry at the time. And it was a massive cultural shift actually in terms of going from being able to roll that out through all the dealer network and everything else. But that's nothing compared to the cultural change that's happening in automotive right now. So much of the innovation is now being driven by electronics and software content in vehicles. So it's a pretty exciting time.
So you left automotive for a while and you went Motorola, you did smart home?
I've done my career's been a real mix of software and hardware into a range of different electronic devices. So yeah, we went through a lot of work in mobile, a lot of work in smart home, and then I joined ARM 4.5 years ago.
So have you loved it all?
Have I loved it all? Yes, no, I have. I mean, I love tech in terms of being able to just see different things and seeing all the different things going on. And actually, personally, that's what I find so rewarding about being at ARM is you get to see so many different exciting things. And particularly the role I'm in is there's just really wide range of different applications.
How do you keep track? Because you're involved in embedding things. That's basically an IoT, that's everything.
It is, but I mean, a lot of if you think of what we do as my group, we're about providing a lot of the enabling technology. So we enable our customers, people who make chips, to be able to do a whole range of different devices. So some of what we don't have to solve all of the problems. We have a fantastic ecosystem of customers and partners that do a lot of the work in terms of solving vertical specific problems. What we need to do is provide the enabling technology that enables them to do that. There are some areas where we go deeper in terms of the vertical focus and really trying to understand what's needed for a specific space. And in other areas, actually, it's our customers that do all the work in terms of taking our IP and applying it to a particular market segment.
So is ARM kind of the silent underpinning here? Because people don't hear about ARM in the normal world.
Well, no, indeed, because actually a lot of it's the end products that people buy. But yeah, no, ARM is used in so many different devices. Billions of chips a year are using ARM, from the very, very small to the very, very big. So it's a real wide range of stuff.
But it's not its own brand.
Well, it is. I mean, as a company, we have a brand, and I think we're very well known within the tech industry.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, you're right. From a consumer point of view, people are more familiar with the OEM brands and maybe some of the chip companies. But that's okay. I mean, from our point of view, I mean, from a business, we want to. The whole strength of the ARM business has been about enabling an ecosystem, and actually, it's about shared success. So it's not about trying to own the whole system ourselves. It's about providing technology. It's about enabling people to do cool things.
So which are the industries that are kind of hot right now? We've got automotive, you've got healthcare. I mean, you're dealing with everything. Where's that kind of fall?
It's hard to be specific because, as I say, there's lots of different things that are going on. I mean, for sure, automotive is very hot, and actually one of the big requirements in automotive is safety. So functional safety. So being able to design products that reliably do what you need them to do. And a lot of the boundaries that are being pushed there in terms of safety are then being picked up by other markets like medical, like robotics, that basically anything where a machine is interacting with a human, you need a level of safety to protect people. So a lot of the innovation there is being driven by automotive. But we're seeing, I mean, there's some really cool things happening in medical devices, some really cool things happening in robotics. Today at the show we had, I don't know if you caught it, we had Boston Dynamics presenting with their dancing dog on stage, which was fantastic. I'm based
in Boston, so I'm very familiar with
fantastic, so you're familiar with them. So there's some really cool innovation happening across a whole range of different segments.
So how do you play with the Boston Dynamics? What do they do with you, or you do with them?
So they're also part of the SoftBank group of families.
Right.
So there's obviously they're part of that broader portfolio. They're using various bits of ARM technology as part of their design, and we've had some collaboration with them around, okay, what technology do we need to power the robots of the future? So a lot of what they're using today is kind of stuff that they can buy off the shelf and products that they can access. But as robotics becomes bigger, it's going to drive more requirements of dedicated technology and dedicated chips.
So how do you keep an eye on the future? I mean, because you live in the future.
As a company, I mean, for us, it's interesting. I mean, we have to spend a lot of time talking downstream to the value chain, so talking to the kind of the end users of the technology to try and understand what they're going to need in 5, 6, 7 years' time. And it is, it's a bit of an art rather than a pure science there, because there's some areas where it's just not known. But by aggregating enough inputs from across different customers, across different markets, we can design products that can service a broad range of customers.
So you're very global. What are you seeing, and we're talking to more than 40 countries here, so what do you see in terms of things that are the same and things that are different around the world?
I mean, I think from a core technology point of view, the needs are all pretty similar, actually. So the products that we build are the same products globally. So we're not, whether it's a CPU, whether it's a GPU, whether it's a machine learning processor, or the software that we're doing, it's the same technology that's used globally. There's obviously different business dynamics, different countries have relative areas of expertise for all sorts of historical reasons, but in terms of the core technology they need, it's all the same. But I mean, my role takes me all over the world, meeting lots of customers. Too much travel, but really interesting in terms of seeing different people, what people are doing in China, in Taiwan, in Japan, in Korea, in Israel, in the US. There's lots of places I'm going to see some really innovative companies.
So is the issue globally really simply timing? Like robotics is bigger in Asia, obviously, than in the US. Same thing with facial recognition in different countries versus the US. Is it timing that's the issue?
I think it's timing, it's opportunity, it's where you get clumps of people that are focused in certain areas. I mean, at the moment, I mean, just mentioned Israel example. That's where certainly there's a lot of companies doing automotive work in Israel at the moment. A lot of startups doing some stuff around the different sensors that are needed to help power autonomous cars. There's also there's a lot of work around security stuff in Israel. But different regions have kind of different areas of expertise. And that varies over time. I think a lot of it's historical. Where were some big companies originally? Where were some universities? And it evolves from there.
So how do you see autonomous vehicles evolving into the future?
It's a good question. So it's, as I say, really exciting time in automotive. And I think there's really kind of two axes of development at the moment. You've got the kind of traditional car market, which is where cars are sold to consumers. And in that context, those cars are having increasing electronics content. They are having more driver assistance capabilities, and that's more of an evolution approach towards autonomous.
So you have a car here at the show.
We do have a car here at the show.
I went down to see it. I said, "What does it do?" They said, "Well, it's just a car."
Yeah.
It has our chips in it. I said, "What does it do?" So it's connected.
It's exactly. So what you're seeing is you're seeing cars that have more driver assistance features, more semi-autonomous cars, but also cars that have more integrated cockpits and more interactive features. So all of the existing car supply chain is kind of adding more electronics content. And there was a great quote I saw from Audi a little while ago saying that something like 90% of innovation in automotive is now electronics and software in terms of what's happening. So you've got that part of automotive, but
so is that the embedded part of what you do?
No, that's all part of the automotive part of what we do. But then you've also got companies that are focused on the robotaxi market, so that are kind of going straight for full autonomous vehicles and focusing on how do you deploy that in a ride-sharing service. And for us, actually, I see both of those markets as pretty vibrant. So if I look forward, some of the forecasts we've got look forward to sort of 2030 and saying where do we see the market. Actually, we see a mixture. We see some robo-taxi services, ride-sharing type applications for autonomous cars, but we see a lot of private ownership of cars still with increased electronics content. And yeah, servicing both of those markets through our customers is something that's important for us.
So you're looking at a 2030?
Yeah, actually, funnily enough, so I actually have a 15-year plan for automotive because you kind of have to for automotive because it's such a long. Some of it's quite a long design cycle, but also something like autonomous cars is going to take a little while before it becomes really mainstream. So we kind of take a long-term view of how do we see these things, how do we see these technologies playing out.
But for ARM, it doesn't really matter because you're inside the vehicle wherever it's being developed.
It doesn't, but the different electronics modules in a car have different technical requirements. So maybe they have, I don't know, if you have something that's sat behind the rear view mirror, it's maybe got to be very small, very power efficient, do a certain type of processing. Whereas if you have a kind of a central car computer that's like the central brain of the car, very different balance of compute requirements. So we need a range of different solutions that customers can combine together in different ways to service all those different needs.
So in your forecast, or your future view, if you will, when do you see the autonomous car being kind of real?
I mean, it's becoming real pretty soon, actually. And in many ways, a lot of the challenges are going to be less about the technology. It's going to be more about regulatory acceptance and consumer acceptance, actually. Do consumers want to get in a driverless car? And I think that will vary culturally as well, globally. But for sure, from a technology point of view, we see it being in a position in a very short space of time, in a matter of a few years before these things become viable in certain areas. And certainly if we look towards the late 2020s, we expect to see a whole range of autonomous car ride-sharing services being available.
So in this environment, is the issue less the technology than the consumer behavior?
I think it will eventually be more about the consumer behavior and the regulatory, because I think the technology is solvable problems. There's a lot of innovation happening now. For sure, it's a really hard problem. Getting a driverless car that really works is taking a lot of investment R&D from a lot of companies, but I'm very confident those problems are going to be solved, and the pace that then the technology rolls out is going to then be more about government and consumer acceptance of the technology.
So I'm sure you do too, go to a lot of big conferences, and these big conferences that are talking about technology, and then their presentation PowerPoint fails, and we're saying we have to have a flawless. You really have
absolutely,
to have a flawless car.
Completely, yeah. You have to have a flawless car, and that's why I mean a lot of the innovation we're doing in my team is all around adding those safety features to the IP. And we actually just announced a couple of weeks ago a couple of new programs. So the Safety Ready program, which was adding new capabilities to across a broad range of the components that we provide, and some automotive enhanced products that have additional features in the product that make it really suitable for these safety markets. But yeah, you've got to design the whole system with robustness in mind, with safety in mind. And yeah, you're right. You wouldn't want it's different challenges. So you have different quality thresholds, different ways you need to design the system. And yeah, helping our customers make those choices is kind of the key mission from the automotive part of our team.
So where does 5G fit in all of this?
In terms of automotive, you mean,
yes.
or in terms?
Well, everything that you do.
Yeah. So I mean, 5G is interesting for a whole range. I mean, I think it enables a whole range of services. It enables a whole range of different devices, and part of what we're doing in embedded is servicing this many different end devices. So I think 5G will enable some services that we haven't even thought of now, and some products and services that we haven't even thought of. In terms of automotive, I'm a great believer that most of the processing has to happen locally in the vehicle. So just the sheer amount of data that's produced by all the sensors in a vehicle mean that there's no way you can send all that data off to the cloud to be processed. You have to process it locally. But there are things that you need in terms of managing autonomous vehicles, vehicle-to-vehicle communication, vehicle-to infrastructure communications, where 5G can really help in terms of latency and bandwidth. So I see it as an important part of really deploying autonomous vehicles widely, for sure.
So what does all this technology do to the ultimate price of a car if anyone's going to buy one in the future?
And I think that's where you have this difference in the market. So I think for a rideshare vehicle, a fully autonomous vehicle is going to be a lot more expensive. But the whole business model around it is completely different because it's a shared ownership model. So actually, whereas today a car might cost $20,000-$30,000 if you're buying it as a consumer, it can be much more than that if it's in a ride-sharing model and if it's used in that way. For sure, in a consumer context, there's only so much additional electronics content the customer's willing to pay for. But what we're seeing is that more and more of the value of the car is going into electronics and software as more features get added over time.
So back in the early 90s when you were at Ford, did you ever think this was coming?
No. So it's fascinating. So as I left automotive in 2001.
Well, it was hardware then, right?
And partly because actually it just felt really slow, really do you know what I mean? The pace of innovation was really slow. So that was when I moved into the mobile industry. And actually, but it's all changed. So it's fascinating. Talking to automotive people that have been in the industry for 30 years, the change is transformational. And actually, I was joking with some of them the other day that they're now the cool place to hang out. It's automotive. So lots of really good things are happening there. So yeah, no, I didn't actually when I left automotive. I didn't have a vision of this is where I would be in 20 years' time.
So do you feel like you've gone full circle?
I do, but it's fascinating because I think, as I say, I think there's some really good things happening, and it's great to see. It's great to see, actually.
So what are the big challenges for you now in the future?
The big challenges. I think there's many different challenges, actually. I mean, I think one of the things that I think we need to focus on as a company is just making it easier to use the technology. That's
hard, though.
It is hard, but it's something that certainly we need to do for our customers to make it just easier to make products. I think one of the biggest challenges that the industry faces is around security and IoT. So having IoT is only going to take off if it really has consumer trust. And if we don't get security right as an industry, it's going to fundamentally limit the adoption of all of these smart things that we can think of. So for us, that's a big challenge, actually, because that's going to be a big driver of how fast we can grow as a company, is how many different electronic devices are out there. So that's why we've done an awful lot of work with the industry. We have the platform security architecture that we talk about. A lot of there's some cool announcements this week, actually, from some of our chip customers who have announced new products integrating our latest features to enable secure devices. So that's really good and that's really positive, but we've still got a lot of work to do to make it so security just works, and it's, do you know what I mean, devices are just secured and it's easy for people to build secure IoT devices.
But one could argue, and like one of your counterparts has, that nothing can ever be totally secure. I mean, a bank can still be robbed.
For sure, and I think this is where I mean, one of the things we talk about with platform security architecture is saying your devices have to be upgradable, because in the future there will be people will find ways to exploit and to attack devices, and so you can never say, right, we're done. This is now secure, we don't need to do any more work on it. So part of it is about life cycle management of the devices, and when you find a problem, when you identify a problem, it's about being able to upgrade devices in the field to maintain the high level of security. So yeah, you're right, nothing is ever going to be perfect and nothing is ever going to be done, but actually the industry needs to make a lot more effort to make sure it's a lot better than it is, because there's a lot of examples today of stuff where the security just hasn't been thought through, and that's what as an industry we need to change.
Yeah. How does the industry deal with basically perceptions? For example, one Tesla crash, and it's 1,000 news stories on a self-driving car, whatever, and there could be thousands of other crashes that don't.
Yeah, I know it's difficult, and as you say, yeah, autonomous cars are held to a very different standard to human drivers.
Or one smart speaker being hacked.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think a lot of it actually is some of it is how does the industry respond to it. We need to adapt pretty quickly. We need to convince consumers that we're doing everything we can, and some of that is actually about. So you get a lot of consumer electronic devices that historically have been ship and then forget about. And that's what the industry needs to change. So it's much more about kind of an active management, managing devices in the field and providing that ongoing service to the consumers.
Right. So lastly, what excites you about the future?
What excites me, apart from the dancing dog robot, which is very exciting that we saw this morning. There's so much actually. I mean, I think the potential for technology to really improve people's lives, to really make the world a better place is fantastic. And what I really love about my job at ARM is the fact that I get exposed to so many of these different things, so many of these different areas where you can see how technology can be a really good thing. So yeah, I'm a real optimist in terms of some of the things that we'll be able to achieve with the technology over the next 5 to 10 years and beyond.
Thank you, John Ronco, and thank you all for listening to the Voices of the Internet of Things.
Thank you.